let's pull the story up and dive into it. We have this from NBC News. Pentagon says Supreme Court's Roe ruling won't affect abortions on military facilities.
Right.
The military will continue providing abortions in cases of rape or incest or when the mother's life is at risk, a top Pentagon official said. Okay, Texas does not allow those exceptions, rape and incest, only the health of the mother,
right.
the life of the mother. So my question is, let's say you have a civilian doctor and a female Army, personnel.
Yeah.
She lives off base. She's married. Civilian doctor does not live on base,
Yeah.
but he contracts the hospital on base. Or not even that. He doesn't need to be a civilian. Let's say he's active duty military as well, lives off base. They both, living under the jurisdiction of Texas, are subject to its laws and rules. If you are in the Army and you break the law, you face military court and civilian court. You get in trouble 2 times.
Yep.
So we know they have to obey the laws. Obviously, you can't have a person just be like, I'm in the military, so I can do what I want. So they go into the military base. She gets an abortion. The doctor performs it. There is now a record of that having occurred. And the U.S. government has said you cannot be criminally charged or penalized civilly for having this procedure, regardless of the state law.
Right.
But some of these states have actually, I don't know if they've passed them yet. They say if you aid and abet an abortion, you're guilty of a crime. So that means the doctor and the woman, regardless of where it's performed, coming back into that state could be arrested because they have committed the crime, according to that state.
Right.
What happens if the state then says, we don't care what the Fed said, and they arrest this contractor or 2 active duty military, and the military is like, you can't arrest them, it's not illegal, and they say, it is here.
Yeah.
What happens when states start arresting military personnel?
Well, I think there are 3 things there. One is what happens when the states start arresting them. The second part is a law that says you can't do something effectively somewhere else, somewhere outside of our jurisdiction, is that going to be able to hold up in court? And then also the question of specific to this, what if the feds just stop recording it? What if the feds just, it's, no questions asked, abortions being performed, and they just don't, have
I got one more for you.
Okay.
Woman's in the military. She is married. They get pregnant. The man says, I really think we should have this kid. And she says, I don't.
Yeah.
And he says, I refuse to allow the abortion to happen. I think it's wrong. I think it's murder. And she says, too bad. He knows where she goes. He knows who does it. And he reports it to the local state, to the state police. Maybe they're not married because I don't know if a husband would do that. But let's say there's she hooks up with a guy.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And the guy's just like, I refuse to allow you to get an abortion.
Yeah.
I reject this. So he reports her. Doesn't matter if the feds are tracking it or not. If that you have a witness come out and then the feds take the active duty person in, say, we're going to interrogate you as part of our investigation. And she says, yes, I did it. And it was legal. It was on federal jurisdiction. And they say, okay, stand up, hands behind your back. You're under arrest. You have right to remain silent. She's like, what? How's this happening? And they say, the law states if you aid and abet an abortion and go somewhere, it doesn't matter where it took place. I don't know if Texas has that ruling, but the general idea, I suppose, is it's not necessarily the same thing as, I think it might have been like Iowa or Idaho, where they said if you aid and abet. But if this military base is in Texas, the feds might be like, it happened on federal jurisdiction. Texas might still say, you're still in Texas. You still live under our laws. And regardless of that, let's just say letter of the law. No, they can't do that, right? Okay, well, according to James Buchanan, states weren't legally allowed to secede either. Didn't stop them.
Right.
So what happens if you get a Christian conservative prosecutor in Texas who says we have made it illegal to kill babies, and then you went into a military base and killed a baby? I'm gonna charge you, and I'm gonna take it all the way to the top because I believe it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what the federal government thinks they're protected on, and then what? The feds are going to be like trying to pull their people out of the jail, filing lawsuits. Yeah. Does it end in a legal battle, or does it end with the state police surrounding federal law enforcement vehicles at gunpoint and saying you're under arrest? What happens then if a federal agent tries getting the woman out, even though she's a known fugitive of state law? Is it possible Texas then says you've aided and abetted a fugitive? I don't care if you're doing it. The feds have no authority to undermine our laws. Think about it this way. Let's say a federal agent, let's say a female member of the Army murders a kid, hits him with a car, and it was on duty, driving a military vehicle, and the kid dies. And the state says, you were driving recklessly. We have a witness. You're under arrest. And then the military says, no, she was active duty. It was an accident. We reject those charges. What happens?
Oh, there. I mean, that's obvious, right? Like if it's on, in the jurisdiction of the state. Where this gets mucky would be if she did it on a military base and the military said we're handling it, and the state said no, it's in our jurisdiction. My understanding of that is that wouldn't be their jurisdiction.
All right, let's try this.
But we could also talk about there could be a prosecutor who says, reality of power, stop me.
Right.
The court said I can't do it. The Supreme Court said I can't do it. I'm doing it anyway. Come and stop me.
Here, so just throwing hypotheticals out there. I'm not saying any of these are like highly probable. Pizza delivery guy. He drives on a base and they're like, what are you here for? And he's like, I got to deliver a pizza to base housing. And they're like, all right, we're going to search your vehicle and then you're cool. And then he's driving in, and then while on duty as an MP, she crashes into him, flips him over, killing him. And she was not paying attention, and she made an illegal lane change. Yeah. And the military says, we're not prosecuting this. We think it was an accident. And then the family of the driver says he's a civilian who's in our state. We reject this. We want him charged.
Yeah.
I think it's highly likely in most circumstances in that case, they'd be like, it happened on a military base. The feds are going to have to handle it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe there's already some longstanding precedent. Both, I'm not even sure if it had to be judicial. I think that's understanding that on military base, that is federal land. That's not state jurisdiction.
So where the question arises then, where this starts to become more akin to the Civil War, is women going to military bases when they're not active duty to get abortions. The state knows they're doing it. Does the state say to the federal government, stop breaking our laws or else? And the feds say, it's our military base, you can't do anything about it. And they say, we will send in state police to arrest these women. The moment they step foot out, they're getting arrested because you are like, if people start going on a military basis, they say, and again, I know this is a bit of a stretch, they're going to be providing abortions. I think it's typically only done for military personnel on military bases. But there are people on the left arguing for effectively
making them sanctuaries for abortions.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So my suggestion is this the direction we may be going?
Oh, very much. I mean, you want to talk about a culture war. There is a gap between those who see this as, a woman exerting autonomy over her body against a clump of cells, a parasite, and other people are saying, no, this is a murder of a baby every bit as much as if the woman were to turn around and murder someone standing next to him. And it's hard to have a compromise between that, right? And so if this plays out and both sides are willing to go to the trenches over it, this could lead to what we're talking about or even worse on just even this specific subject.